Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, welcome back to the show of Al Khair, the show you've all been waiting for, alhamdulillah. And without further ado, we'd like to give the stage back to our eminent guest today, Dr. Tanvir Syed, inshallah. And he's going to continue from where he left off with this interesting topic, the business of magic. Jazakallah, Dr. Sab, over to you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Jazakumullah. Sorry for that interruption, having some technical difficulties here. So the next slide is slide 51. It's about the placebo effect. So how strong is the placebo effect? Okay, that's what's important here. So when you're given a ta'weez or you're given this, recite this ayah, blow this in water and drink it, how do you know if it's actually working or not? And there's something called the placebo effect, which is very strong. So we just gave an example of someone who almost died because he thought he was taking a medication that he wasn't. Here's the opposite example. A man on death row. Death row is, for those of you who don't know, it's when you're imprisoned and you're sentenced to the death penalty. And so you're going to be executed by law. And so there was a man on death row, and they did this experiment. I don't know how ethical this experiment is, but they did the experiment. They told the man on death row that he's going to be put to death the easiest way, pain-free. He said that one of his veins would be cut in his hand, and then he would painlessly bleed to death. So they blindfolded him. They made a scratch on his hand from which blood did not flow. So just a little scratch they put. It didn't even cut the skin or the veins or anything. And then they fixed a flask with warm water above the cut, and they opened the flask to make him believe the blood was flowing. So they poured this blood on his hand to make it feel like it, but he was blindfolded. So slowly his face began to become pale, his blood pressure dropped, heart rate decreased, all medical equipment showed signs of deterioration, and the man's face started to look lifeless, and he actually died. So he died from pure placebo. Okay, that's my point. So if you think that, well, no, I got better, this ta'weez must have worked. It had to work. You know, it was worth the $10,000 I paid to get the jinn out of me. Well, just imagine the placebo effect can do a lot of things. Okay, it can even kill you and it can bring you back to life, like in the previous example we were talking about. So if you go to the next slide, slide 53, this is very important. We're talking about payment to the healer, direct versus indirect. This is very, very important. So there's two kinds of payments that a healer can collect from you, and there's a lot of abuse happens this way. One is a direct fee for service, and sometimes this is absolutely ridiculous. $5,000, $20,000, buy me a house, give me this house, and then I'll remove the jinn from you. Sometimes they ask for donations. If they run an organization, they run a mosque or something, they say, you know, you don't have to give me anything, but give it fi sabilillah. And they ask for money for their donations, and that's still supporting them. Somehow the money does come back to them. Even if it is to the mosque, it's still taking money. And there's something called a retainer that some will do. If you can move to the next slide, please, 53. Slide 53. There's the retainer. I knew one sheikh was very good at this. What he would do, he said, it's okay, I won't charge you. I'll only charge you if I pull the jinn out of you. But you have to give me a retainer of $500, okay, which is a lot of money for some people. And so he would take the retainer, and then if the symptoms went away, he would take about $10,000 more. If the symptoms did not go away, then he would still keep that $500, which is still a lot of money. So there's, Islam, when you have a negotiation between two parties, the importance in Sharia, the importance is that the risk should be shared. You should have a shared risk between the two. And there's definitely not a shared risk in this case. And then there's also indirect payments we look for. There's forgiving bills, renewal of supplies for free, gifts and services, healthcare, chores, rides. They might say, I'll cure you, but then I don't want to pay you for this, and so forth. Introduction to other people who have power, or look the other way when the healer sins. Some of the healers will do very overt sins, and to make sure you just don't report it. Just don't tell anyone about it. So we'll go to the next slide. Let's keep going here. Let's go to slide 57. Okay, so 57 talks about idol worship. You know, idol worship is mentioned in the Quran. And anytime something's mentioned in the Quran, the proper way to recite the Quran, to read the Quran, is to not think about the other people that Allah is talking about. You think about you. Okay, if Allah is talking about Thamud, the tribe of Thamud, and what they did with their prophet Salih, you don't say, oh, those Thamud, look how bad they were. No, the point is that's for you. I mean, how are you being like Thamud? That's the point, right? This is a very basic concept. You don't need me to say. Everyone should know this, right? When you read the Quran about the Bani Israel, the Quran is not written for the Bani Israel. The Bani Israel existed before the Quran was revealed. So the point of Bani Israel is, how are you being of the Bani Israel? Why are you acting like the Bani Israel? That's the idea. So Allah talks about idol worship in the Quran. And so why does Allah talk about idol worship in the Quran? If we go to the next slide, 58, Allah says here, قال أفتعبدون من دون الله ما لا ينفعكم شيئا ولا يضركم. Okay, Surah Al-Anbiya. Okay, أفل لكم ولما تعبدون من دون الله أفلا تعقلون. Again, أفلا تعقلون comes up. The point is, why do you worship from besides Allah something that can neither benefit you nor can harm you? And that's where these healers come in. That's where the healers come. So when a healer, a fake healer comes in, a pseudo sheikh comes in and says, oh, I'm going to fix this problem, believe me, you will start to worship this individual. It's not the greater shirk. It's the shirk asghar. It's a small, lower shirk, but you start to go to this healer with all your problems. In fact, you basically marry the healer. The healer becomes a member of your family. The healer now knows all the secrets of your family. That's a lot of power, to know the intimate secrets of your family and to know the secrets of your bedroom. And a lot of folks who go as healers will reveal all these little details to the healer. It's a lot of power you give to an individual that you don't need to give. And you start, like the Quran says here, you start to worship. Okay, you start to worship. So Allah talks about idols. Why in the Quran? The idol worship is not to get you. It's not so much that you should stop worshiping idols. We don't. If you're reading the Quran and you believe in the Quran, you believe in Allah, you don't worship idols anymore. So why is Allah talking about it? Because we still do idol worship, but at a lower level. We worship the asbab of Allah. We worship the means through which things come to us and things happen. You worship the doctor who cured you. You worship this man who gave you the loan, who paid off your loan for you. You worship the bus driver who stopped and waited for you to run on the bus. You forget that Allah does these things. You know, man la yashkur nas la yashkur Allah. You have to give thanks. You give shukr to people, there's no question, but you have to give shukr to Allah. You have to understand that this is just the asbab of Allah. So Allah gave us a very amazing 2 words or 3 words with that. Alhamdulillah. That's a great blessing from Allah, because how are you going to thank? You know, how are you going to thank Allah? If you had to sit here and thank Allah for everything, you can't. It's infinite. So many things come to mind and don't come to mind. So Alhamdulillah is such a great blessing that we can say Alhamdulillah. The point of Alhamdulillah is that we know that it came from Allah, not from these the pseudo healers who's giving you this amulet and blowing this thing on you and asking you to drink this water, etc. Let's go to the next slide, 59. Sorry, let's go beyond that. Okay, we covered all this. Let's go to 62. Slide 62. And interestingly, we call the Shaitaani Healers. In fact, the healers who do this to people, they actually act like Shaitan. Shaitan tricked Adam and Hawa alayhi salatu wasalam. He tricked them through trickery, right? He swore to them, he lied to them Allah's name, and then made them do something, right? And we'll come back to this inshallah, the comparison between Iblis and Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, the sins, the comparison. But the point is here that these healers actually act like Shaitan. When they tell you this is what's caused this illness and they take money from you, they're doing exactly what Shaitan did. Let's go to slide 63. So I'll go through some specific situations now. Dream interpretation is a hot topic. So I'm going to go through some just quick hot topics. Hot in the sense that I believe that there's a lot of abuse in the community. So if you go to please, slide 63, a note on dream interpretation. So understand that dreams have 4 sources. Okay, there are 4 sources. There's nafsani, there's shaitani, there's one from the nafs, from the shaitan, there's malakani from the angels, and the rahmani from Allah Azza wa Jalla himself. 99.9% out of the whole year, 365 days a year, maybe 363 days are from the nafs. Okay, 1 or 2 days may not be from the nafs, maybe from other sources. The shaitan as well can do quite a bit. If there's some kind of sin, great fear, anxiety, or something sexual, then it's usually from the shaitan. Okay, but otherwise, majority come from the nafs. That's what's very important. The problem here is that in our community, in the Muslim community around the world, there's this, especially in the Indian, Pakistani subcontinent, North Africa, you'll see this as well, Turkey, you'll see this as well. There's this obsession with the other world, obsession with the supernatural, right? And so we like to tell our dreams. And when you reveal your dreams to somebody, okay, I strongly believe that a woman should not reveal her dream to anyone but her husband. And if the husband wants, the husband can go to a sheikh and get the interpretation. But I don't believe any woman, I really believe, but based on what I've seen, a woman should not go to a man who is not her husband and say, this is my dream. Because when you reveal a dream and it's nafsani, you give some very intimate secrets about yourself to the interpreter. And it doesn't take someone who's an expert in dream interpretation. There are many dream interpreters who are not Muslim, and they're pretty good at it as well. But you tell, when you have a dream that comes from the nafs, which is most of your dreams, you're revealing how you think. You're revealing how you think, and you're revealing something that no one should know but your husband. And if you don't have a husband, if you're not married, then go to your father. You can tell your father, or someone who's a mahram. But you don't go to other people, to non-mahram people, and tell them your dreams, expecting you're going to be saved in life. All right? Interpretation is not mandatory. You're not obliged. You won't be asked on Yawm al-Qiyamah, did you interpret that dream? I gave you that in dream. Why didn't you go to that sheikh and get it interpreted? And not seeking an interpretation does not lead to harm. Okay? If you have harm in your life, it will never, I promise you, it will never, ever be in life that some harm happened because you didn't go get the dream interpreted. It never happened. It never happens that way. In fact, if you don't get a dream interpreted or get a dream interpreted, it doesn't matter. The destiny is going to be the same as well. Whatever Allah wants is going to happen. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا إِن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ رَبُّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Whatever you will, you will not will except what Allah wills. Extremely, extremely important. And dream interpreters can really mess with your mind. A long time ago, 30 years ago, I knew a dream interpreter in America. And he told me, he said, you would not believe, these young teenage girls come to me and they tell me these dreams, and based on the dreams, I know what they're doing. I know their sins. And he knew how to manipulate them very well. That's scary. That's a lot of power to give to somebody. You know, you're coming in the name of a sheikh and you're listening to these dreams from young women. That's a very, very scary thing to do. You don't want to have that power over a woman. Believe me, the fitna, no man can handle. I'll come to that. No man can handle no man can prevent themselves from the beauty of a woman. I don't care how religious you say you are, you think you are, no matter how many tahajjud you have prayed, you cannot handle the fitna of a woman, of a beautiful woman. The nazar, it's a sahmun masmoom, right? It's a poisoned arrow of the poison of Iblis. And a beautiful woman's face, when it falls on a man's eyes, when that beautiful, it doesn't affect you right away. It's sahmun masmoom. It's a poisoned arrow. Poison doesn't affect you right away. It takes a few days. It takes a few hours. It slowly hits you. It comes in your dreams. It comes in different ways. It's very, 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 very dangerous. Very, very scary. So there's something that I would urge all the women, any woman listening to this, is do not reveal your dreams to anyone. If you really want an interpretation, go to your husband. Let your husband decide if your husband wants to tell to a sheikh. I would go to your husband. That's the best protection you have. Your husband is your Jannah. Even if he's an absolute jerk, he's still your Jannah. If you're just good to your husband, even if he's not good to you, that's your Jannah. You don't want to sacrifice that. You don't want to go to a man sheikh and say, I want to tell you something I haven't told my husband. You don't want to, or even worse, you haven't told your husband. Or even if you have told your husband, I would not reveal these things to a man. We'll go to the next slide, inshallah. And something very important on dream interpretation. If you end up going, this is slide 64. If you end up going, a previous slide, please. If you end up going to a dream interpreter, okay, the way you know a true interpreter from a false interpreter is very simple. The interpretation should not cause stress. Okay, if you go to an interpreter and the interpreter says to you, oh, this dream means there's a secret enemy. It means one of your neighbors is trying to kill you. That's not a real interpreter. That's someone playing with your mind. Okay, because an interpretation of a dream should alleviate the problem. It should not cause more stress on you. Even if it tells you someone's trying to kill you. If someone's going to kill you, someone's going to kill you. You're not going to stop it. If the dream says it's going to happen, it's going to happen. If that's what the dream means. But the point is, if someone tells you that you have secret enemies, or someone is trying to hurt you, the dream means someone did jadoo to you, someone did sir. That's a false interpretation. Stay away from that interpreter. That interpreter is trying to get your money somehow. Because when you do that, you're not going to go home and say, okay, I got my information. You're going to go back to that interpreter. You're going to go back with more of your problems, more of your money. And if you're a woman and you're going to a man and revealing this to a man, that's even more dangerous. Okay, because you're going to fall in love with that man. Trust me, you have a boring husband at home and this man is telling you secrets about another world, you're going to start falling in love. Your heart's going to change and go towards another man. You don't want that fitna on your hands. And you don't want to put a sheikh in that fitna as well. Like I said, especially beautiful women, even if you wear niqab, even if you're hijab, niqab, doesn't matter. In fact, women say this all the time. They say, Muslim women say, well, I wear hijab, so I'm protected. Oh, no, you're not. Because the hijabi women are the women who the sheikh are interested in. Trust me. Religious men like religious women. You're their fitna. Okay, if you have hijab and you wear niqab, you are their fitna. All right? These men, people of deen, people of religious people, they're not interested in the non-religious women. So you have to be very, very careful. This is something you have to be extremely, extremely meticulous about and very scrupulous about, is not to reveal these things, talk about these things to non-mahram men. So in fact, like I said in this slide, it's better for women to avoid telling the dreams altogether. And next slide, please, slide 65. The problem with dream interpreters who cause suspicion is that suspicion will lead to accusation. Accusation leads to backbiting and gossip. It leads to sin, right? And there's three different kinds in Arabic. We talk about three different kinds of suspicion or thoughts of suspecting people. One is called dhann, one is called shak, and one is called wahm. And dhann means that the evidence is in your favor. Like, yeah, it must be this person. Look, he left his shirt here. I can smell his cologne. He must have stolen my money. That's dhann. Shak is 50-50. 50 is in your favor, 50 is not in your favor. Wahm is worse. Wahm is most of the information is not in favor of what you're thinking, but you think it anyways. It's what we call paranoia. We go to the next slide, inshallah. Let's talk about suffering. So if we're talking about suffering, we're saying, well, if it's not magic, if it's not evil eye, then where's my suffering coming from? And suffering, next slide please, should be 66. Suffering is a part of life. Okay, everyone knows this is a part of life. You can't get out of suffering. You can say, I'm going to leave life, I'm going to go live in the mountains, I'm not going to talk to anybody. Believe me, you will get suffering. You'll lose your sheep. Okay, you'll fall and break your ankle. Something will happen. This is life, how it works. Allah employs suffering to bring man closer to Him. That's the point of suffering. If there was no suffering, you wouldn't be close to Allah. Suffering is the only way that you can worship Allah. Otherwise, you would move away from Allah. And the Sahaba, radiallahu anhu, a great sheikh, now a modern sheikh, said this. He said the Sahaba would melt if they even received a drop of suffering of the Anbiya. The 114,000 Anbiya, take any one drop of their suffering, put in the Sahaba, they would have melted. So those who are closest to Allah have the most suffering. They go to the most. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you look at his life, how much he suffered. It's nothing compared to what we go through is absolutely nothing. If we go to the next slide, this is a take-home message slide, extremely important, slide 67. So this question comes up. Suppose you're going through some troubles, infertility, marital problems, financial problems, some kind of problem in life, okay? You ask the question, I'm suffering. Is it from Allah's reward and Allah is bringing me close to Him, or is Allah's punishment? It's a very simple question, and the answer is very simple. The answer depends on how you react. It depends on how you react. If you move towards the deen during the suffering, it means Allah loves you, and this is a gift from Allah, and He's bringing you closer. If you move away from the deen in response to suffering, that means it's a punishment. So if you want to know if you're being punished, don't sit in a corner and say, why does this happen, and why does that happen, and everything's happening, so many bad things are happening, Allah's making me suffer, why is Allah making me suffer? Yeah, you are, that's a punishment for you, and that is a punishment because you're moving away from the deen. So if you have extreme and continuous anger, you insult the deen, you miss your salat, use bad language, you engage in haram solutions, that's punishment from Allah. That suffering is punishment, right? If on the other hand, you blame yourself, your salat becomes longer, you spend your time in dua, you're more grateful to Allah, you remove haram from your life, that's a blessing from Allah. That suffering is a blessing from Allah. Allah is bringing you close to Him, Azza wa Jal, just like He brought the Prophet close to Him as well. We'll go to the next slide. Marital counseling. Okay, I've done marital counseling for about 15 years, mashallah, quwwata illa billah. For the first 7 to 8 years, it was very bad counseling. I did counseling in a way that I think ruined every single marriage that I counseled. And it was the wrong way to do it. But I learned the wrong way. And so alhamdulillah, when I went the right way, alhamdulillah, for the last 7 to 8 years, every couple we have counseled has stayed together. Alhamdulillah, even the ones that were very, very much on the verge of divorce, alhamdulillah. So I learned the bad way and the right way to do it. And it depends on who trains you. That's the bottom line. And what I would say first, as what I learned about the wrong way, do not trust a healer or a counselor who scolds the husband in front of the wife. Don't ever trust someone who counsels and scolds the husband in front of the wife, because that leads to divorce very quickly. Because what happens, that empowers the woman to believe that she's being abused, and then when they go home, the woman doesn't work on herself. And then the man, and she will start to disrespect the man, and they fall apart. It's very sad. Allah forgive. I didn't do it directly. I was doing it under the guidance, the quote guidance of some other people. And but it's a great sin to separate a husband and wife, and that's how you do it. If you scold a husband in front of the wife, or you insult or make fun of the husband in front of the wife, that's extremely dangerous. Don't ever do that. All right. The second is a true healer, a true counselor will criticize both, will be harsh on both, and that's the idea. Okay, inshallah. Okay, let's go quickly, inshallah. For the interest of time, let's move to. Let me see. Let's go. There's one. Okay, maybe one story. I'll tell you. So story of the overnight Murshid. You go to ayah. I keep saying ayah, as if I'm revealing something here. Slide 73, please. Very interesting. A story of the overnight Murshid I would like to talk about. So in India, this is. I have direct confirmation of this. The man who did this actually told me about this a few months ago. What he did. He was in India. There was a poor man who had a large family, and this large family, he had a large family. He couldn't support them. So he came to a friend of my father's, and he told him, he said, I need to make money. How can I do this? So he said, I'll show you how to do it. It's very simple. What you do is the mansion that he worked in. Let's go to the next slide. There were 4 doors. He said, take 2 of your friends, put them on the front doorstep, and then anytime someone walks by on the street, what you do is when people walk in the street, they'll say, meri beti ki shaadi nahi ho rahi, my daughter's not getting married, I'm not having whatever problem you hear, you scream to yell, say, hey, the sheikh over here, this happened to my daughter also. The sheikh cured the whole problem. Okay, and what he did was they would send the people walking by to the door, 1, 2, 3, or 4, based on the problem. So then this friend of this poor man, he knew based on the door where the person was what the problem was. And so he would look through the hole of the door and say, oh, I know you have marital problems. And the guy would be shocked. How do you know I have marital problems? You must be a real sheikh. but it was all set up because it was based on the door he would stand in front of. And what he did was, if you go to the next slide, he taught him, this man could not even read or write. He taught him to write Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim in a ta'weez, and he kept 100 of them. And what he would do, he would say, take this ta'weez, and then I will cure you. Everything will be cured. And alhamdulillah, the problem would be cured because of placebo. The guy believed in it. They believed in it would happen. All right? He'd say, leave money at the doorstep, and then just walk away. And then he would collect all this money. He made a lot of money. But then a problem happened. Okay, I guess we don't need the slides. I can just tell you what happened. He made so much money in the town, in the city, by curing all these people's problems with this ta'weez. And then finally a multi-millionaire came to him one day, and the multi-millionaire said to him, listen, I heard you're a great healer and you can solve problems. And he says, yes, I am. He says, well, I have a problem. I went to 2 different Murshids, and each of them told me that I went to 4 different Murshids, and each of them told me that 2 people have done magic on me. If you can prove this to me, I will buy you this house over here. Okay? And so he got scared. So he went back to my father's friend. He said, Ab kya karo, what should I do? Someone came and told me this. So he thought about it and thought about it. He said, okay, I have an idea. He said, go take an egg, okay, and you put it in some vinegar and leave it in the vinegar overnight for 4 hours. Then take 2 needles, pierce the egg with the 2 needles, and then take the egg out of the vinegar. So vinegar makes the shell soft. He took it out, and then he says, when the guy comes, throw the egg. And so when the guy came the next day, he started reciting Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, some surahs and so forth. He says, someone give me an egg, give me an egg. He's like, so give me an egg. So his friends gave him that egg. He threw it, and then 2 needles came out. And he said, here, 2 people have done sorcery on you. And he faked the guy, and he bought the house for the mansion for him, just to give you an idea. My point is, there's a lot of ways of trickery. I was just trying to go through these ways of trickery. But I'm going to finish, inshallah. There's some more we can talk about, which I won't. I'll skip the other slides. But I'll give you a challenge, inshallah. A very nice challenge. Nowadays, there's a whole fad about doing challenges. And I don't like challenges because challenges mean you do something, and you end it, and you go back to your old ways. Okay, but a real challenge is lifelong. But try this out. If you believe you have hasad, that you have nazar on you, that you have jalan on you, you have jinn, you have magic, jadoo, whatever it is, 40 days, don't believe it. Throw it out, don't believe it. Throw out your wazifas. Throw out the ta'weez. Throw out everything and replace it with one thing. Just replace it with one thing. Don't believe it. Force yourself. If you really believe you have it, throw it out, and what you do instead is take the Quran and recite it interactively. What that means, interactively, the way the Sahaba used to recite the Quran, Allah yarda alayhim, the way they used to do it is they used to read an ayah and then make a dua. So you read an ayah and you see how that ayah applies to you, and you make a dua for it. Okay, and if you do this whatever. If you were doing your wazifa, if you're doing a wazifa for 10 minutes a day, do that for 10 minutes. If you're doing wazifa for an hour a day, then do that for 1 hour. Try it for 40 days and see what happens. You see all your problems are going to go away. Okay, it means you don't need the healer. You don't need the ta'weez. You don't need to blow this in the water and drink. That stuff is there, but 99% of the time the problem is you. And a very simple way, we call it a litmus test. The way you tell the litmus test, the way to see if you truly are affected by magic or not, it's very simple. When someone tells you you're not affected, if you get angry. Okay, if you have cancer, now suppose you're diagnosed with cancer, and then 5 doctors tell you this. Okay, then one doctor comes and says, no, I did all the studies, you don't have cancer. You will be jumping up and down for joy. You will be so happy you don't have cancer. But if someone tells you, you don't have magic on you, and you get angry, that's your kibr. That's your arrogance coming out, because you want to believe you have the magic. Those who believe they have it and get angry when they're told they don't have it, that's a sign that you're not affected by the magic. There's a lot more slides to talk about, but because in the interest of time, inshallah, I've been given 4 or 5 warnings already, sorry, I should close it over here. We'll leave the time for question and answer, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair, inshallah. Allah yutikumul afiyah, inshallah.
Jazakumullah. Jazakumullah. Jazakallah. Fantastic, mashallah, fantastic presentation. Alhamdulillah. And now we'll open to any questions. Dr. Saab, have a seat, please. Jazakallah khair. Any questions from the people who are watching, please phone in. Alhamdulillah, any questions you might have because of this presentation, feel free to call into the studios, and we've got our esteemed guests here, Mufti Siraj Sahib here, mashallah, Mufti Ishfaq Sahib here, Dr. Sahib here as well, and also to our esteemed colleagues and our brothers and sisters in the audience. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask us. So, mashallah, Mufti Ishfaq Sahib, how do you feel about the whole situation? Dr. Sahib ne kaha कि there's different obviously reasons why people are possessed, and शैतान का एक तरीका होता है लोगों पर मुसल्लत होने का एक ज़रिया होता है कि आदमी समझे कि मेरे अंदर मैं और लोगों से बेहतर हूँ. तो मुफ्ती सिराज साहब हम आपको पूछते हैं, बिस्मिल्लाह।
नहमदुहु व नसल्ली अला रसूलिल करीम। डॉक्टर साहब की मैंने पूरी बात नहीं सुनी है, शुरू से लेकर आखिर तक। मैं बहुत देर से आया हूँ और मुझे पता नहीं उन्होंने शुरू में क्या बयान किया है, लेकिन ग़ालिबन डॉक्टर साहब इस फील्ड में मैं डॉक्टर साहब से सवाल करूँगा कितने साल से हैं डॉक्टर साहब आप? हाउ लॉन्ग इन दिस फील्ड ऑफ नफ्सियात?
About 15 to 20 years.
So most of the cases comes like this, those of the what you call black magic or the jinn or anything about nafsiyat, this come to you any times?
Yes, usually what happens, so I have, so just a little background. So I'm a neurologist, the doctor of the brain, spinal cord, nerves, and so forth. And I also trained in Eastern medicine, holistic medicine as well. And I trained in counseling, marital counseling as well. A lot of family counseling, problem counseling, children counseling as well. Children is a big deal. There's some more slides I didn't have a chance to talk about, but I was going to bring up some of those situations. And I also trained in something called psychosomatic medicine, and that is my subspecialty in the field. And psychosomatic medicine, when I started treating these patients, alhamdulillah, I've treated about 1,100 patients. 1,100
can I just interrupt, please?
Sorry?
Can I just interrupt? What do you define as psychosomatic medication?
Psychosomatic medicine, these are physical symptoms, with physical symptoms that are due to psychological cause.
Exactly.
Okay, and what I noticed was very interesting. When I trained in the jinn, sihr, and all, and the hasad, the ayn, all this business, and I trained in some psychosomatic medicine, I had completely different paradigms. One was Western medicine, one was Eastern medicine. But I saw a similarity that was very, very similar. So I realized that a lot of times when we say jinn, evil eye, etc., all these things, it's not. It's usually, it's psychosomatic is what's going on. And I've cured, I'll tell you how many people I've cured. I didn't talk about this. I'll take a glass of water and someone will have, recite Surah Al-Baqarah and so forth, and recite in the ears. They start shaking, screaming. I'll take a piece of paper and I'll write, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. This is just a child's nursery rhyme. I'll dip it in the water. I'll give it to the patient. They'll drink it and the jinn leaves. Everything goes away. And then I'll tell them, I say, you don't have a jinn in you. I said, the problem is you were traumatized when you were young. And when you're traumatized, usually when you're traumatized, when you're violated by someone when you're young, those memories stay in the body. And your Aydina wa Arjuna, they're going to talk. They're going to talk in Yawm al-Qiyamah. So they store memories. And what I've noticed, these memories come out and they have these emotions and they're blamed on jinn, etc. It's usually not that. It's usually some psychological trauma they've gone through. And so I'll show them. I say, you don't have a jinn. He goes, yeah, you recited Surah Al-Baqarah and everything came out. I said, yeah, but look what I did, and I wrote this, nothing, junk on you. And I tell them, it's lying, it's deception. I say to them, it's lying, but it's with a good intention. And the point is that I say, yeah, I'm writing something here that's going to take the jinn out. And technically I did. I took the jinn out with this thing, right?
Amazing.
You see?
Amazing.
So that's when I realized, I said, I know it's real. There's no question. It's in the Quran. The Rasulullah said it's real as well. But what I found, though, I started investigating these cases. And I've treated many cases. We've gone into patients' homes and cured these problems, finding out there's nothing there. It's just stress, it's trauma. And a lot of people exploit it. And it's being exploited. And one slide I wanted to mention really badly, the way you know a true healer, number one, they don't take money. They don't take anything from the family, number one. And the second thing I've noticed is they don't meet with women alone. They never meet with a woman alone, these two. I think just those two criteria, you can weed out very quickly majority of the fake healer, the false healers. Yeah.
Fantastic.
The second question, that was a hadith of Bukhari Sharif that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also was affected with black magic. If you can explain something?
Yeah, I did. There was a slide on that. And what the point is, he
so
was...
it was true or not?
Oh, it was true. Absolutely, yeah.
So
there's no question there. But the difference was this. He didn't sin. And I have a list on my slides. I don't have it now, but I put a list. And there's about maybe 9 or 10 things. He never screamed in anger at his wives. He had 6 wives at one point, and I was saying it comically but very true. We can't even hold our tongue with one wife. I mean, he had 6 wives. That was not a party. That was very, very difficult. He never yelled. He never abused. He didn't miss his salat. He might have repeated salat because he forgot he prayed, but he never missed. He would not miss his salat. He didn't leave the sharia. He didn't do haram acts, right? He didn't say, okay, riba is halal now because I'm going through so much. I need to get out of here. I need a house in the country. He didn't make excuses. So the point is, yeah, he was affected, but he never did the things that we do. Like when we're affected nowadays, we're screaming at people, we're hurting people, and so forth. That's the difference. Yeah.
How he got cured for that?
Sorry?
How he got cured?
How did Rasulullah?
Yeah, he got cured by what was the thing? What was the thing? There was 11 knots in the. I understand that, and the problem here.
Sorry,
cutting
you. He was reading that after was the authentic hadith. He used to read after morning, evening 3 times and blowing himself. This is subut from the hadith or not?
Of course, yes, yes.
So because most of the things I'm listening from Dr. Sabsari Mafa says is completely against the hadith and Quranic ayats. I am in that field, alhamdulillah, I'm doing from 30 years, alhamdulillah. I'm not against anybody, I'm saying that's 30 years, alhamdulillah, free of charge, fi sabilillah, alhamdulillah, Allah shukr, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. I'm saying approximately I studied 600 to 700 books about this topic, about this ahadith and the commentaries of these ahadith, which is the sihr and jinn and Quranic surah jinn and many things. So most of the things आपने बयान की है वो मेरे नज़दीक तो कुरान और हदीस के बिल्कुल ख़िलाफ़ है, जो आपको उस पर दोबारा स्टडी करे तो बेहतर है किसी आलिम के पास, चूँकि ये आलिम इल्मियत एक अलग चीज़ है और एक गैर आलिम है, माशाल्लाह आप डॉक्टर है अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह, और एक आदमी इस फील्ड में बहुत आगे बढ़ा हुआ है इल्म में और जो इस पर लगा हुआ है और ही नोज़ व्हाट इज़ बिहाइंड what Allah says and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says this. Yes. So you can open some hadith of Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi and study only Ibn Hajar Asqalani and Allama Aini and Jalaluddin Suyuti. Just on the topic. Okay. That's a great kitab is written by Jalaluddin Suyuti rahmatullah alayhi, Ahkamul Jan fi Ahkamul Marjan. If you could have some time, it's in Arabic, if you can study that kitab also. Many kitabs there, if you can study inshallah, it will be very, very helpful for you too.
Fantastic.
And to explain others too.
Well, I'd want to say, I don't think I said anything against the hadith. Maybe you were not
because,
in the...
Sorry, for example, sorry, cutting you.
Yeah,
for
sure,
example,
sure.
one thing you said like to blow in the water and it's not going to help. So
No, I didn't say that. I think it's a misunderstanding. I'm not saying that.
What I've said that, many times क्या होता है कि लोगों के यहाँ कोई जादू होता है ना होता है, वो समझते हैं कि जादू होता है, फिर अगर कोई आदमी कुछ भी लिख ले, कोई तावीज़ पर लिख ले, चाहे यानी कोई कुछ भी हो, लघु बात भी हो, और वो आदमी पी ले तो आदमी समझता है कि ठीक ठाक हुआ है. So upon this situation, I need to ask is, during this, when you did these cases, psychosomatic cases, obviously, yes, and the body stores trauma, is a very well established fact. Did you have a kind of an audit of how many people were actually affected and how many people had this trauma?
Well, I didn't understand the question.
Yeah, let's say if you had 100 patients who came and who had this, who had these symptoms, and you did this particular, experiment where you put the Humpty Dumpty in.
Oh yes, yes, sure.
So
sure.
was it? Did you make it? How much? What percentage, maybe a rough percentage of people who were actually afflicted and people who were recovered from this method?
Oh, geez, I can remember maybe 1 or 2 people were actually affected. Let's say out of 100. 98 or 99 were not affected.
Right.
They were cured when I did nothing. The other 1 or 2, I sent them to someone a scholar who is well versed in this. I don't know what happened to them after that.
Excellent. So, right, 98% maybe people who think they're afflicted are not afflicted.
That's my point.
2% maybe.
Yeah, so I'm not disagreeing. No. I believe the water, it's real. Yeah, you can blow something, it has an effect. There's no question. That's not my point. My point, and by the way, I very, very, very much respect you for not taking money. That's the key. What I'm saying though, for every one of you, there's 100 more who are not you, and they are taking money, and the people are not affected by magic. They're affected by it's in themselves. The problem is nafsani, it's in themselves. So I'm not saying that this is against the hadith. I said many times in the beginning. In fact, the first statement in the recording, I said this is all real. This all exists. It's true. The problem is that people have blamed it so much, and that the fake healers, the false healers is batil. They take advantage of that, and they know how to feed. That's my point. If there were people like you, more people like you, that would be great. Absolutely, but they're not. That's the problem.
But the hadith, Muktasab, if you can let that the Sahabi went and he blow on someone's, and mashallah, he asked 30 goats. Subhanallah. What you can explain something about this?
No, I think you're misunderstanding me. I'm not talking. So I'm not contradicting the existence or truth of these evils. They're there. There's no question. What I'm saying in society today, there's a misdiagnosis being made. and the disease is misdiagnosed. You know, for example, in my field, if someone comes and says, I have a headache and I'm seeing double vision, okay, those symptoms I take and I have to think, what's the diagnosis? If I make the wrong diagnosis, I can hurt this patient, okay? And the problem is in the field, in your field, there's no rules. There's no one to check. Like if you go to, if let's say this person says, I'm having problems with fertility, and then I go to this sheikh, this healer, the Murshid, Ahmed, whatever he is, I'm going to get this cured. If that guy's a fake, and majority I'm seeing are fake, right? They give some kind of cure, which works temporarily, then doesn't work, and they take money for it. But the problem is not that. The problem is they have some kind of disease. It could be polycystic ovary disease. It could be the tubes are cut. It could be the husband is the problem, not the woman. That's what I'm saying.
Jazakumullah.
Yeah.
Fantastic. That's very. We've got a question from the audience. Bismillah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dr. Sab, Jazakallah for the talk and speech, and Mufti Sab, Jazakumullah. Born and bred here in the UK, and majority of the stuff that's said on both sides, with Mufti Sab said and what yourself have said, there is no denying, and Mufti Sab, there's no denying that sihr does exist, there's no denying that jinn do exist, shaitan is there. But my personal experience throughout my life, and I've experienced in my own families with my parents, grandparents, uncles and aunties, the problem over here, and this is I think which we're trying to explain to Mufti Sahib here as well, the problem over here is that majority of these people, the so-called amils that are there, are only there for their own needs and to make money. The amount of money that's been spent by people, and Mufti Sahib, mashallah, the work you are doing is fantastic, but the problem is there's only a handful of genuine people. Sure. And the message out there should be loud and clear that we're not, on this program, we're not disputing that these illnesses do exist, you know, that jinns are there and sihr is there. My own experience, the example that you gave in terms of the needles, I've experienced that firsthand. I've experienced that firsthand. The thing is, from a young age, from the age of 8, I'm in my 30s now, from the age of 8, I've seen amils after amils after amils come and go through my house. So you name it, I've seen eggs, I've seen stuff coming out of vests, you know, I've seen people fainting, I've seen women speaking in men's voices, men speaking in women's voices, I've seen it all. But what tends to happen is they won't directly say it. They'll say, no, you know, we don't take money. But you know what? I've got a madrasa. Exactly. Give towards that. Or I've got this, you can give it. Or give sadaqah, give zakat. For my own personal experience, I've gone, yes?
Black goat.
The stuff that they do, and it's, you know, it's satanic stuff. That slaughter this, take the bones, go to this sea, go into a graveyard, do this. It's all this stuff, and like you said, and Mufti Sahib, the first main thing he said is the way shaitan traps these people. Now, if I were to say to my parents, and let me just give you an example, if I said to my parents, this is wrong, they would have chucked me out of the house. But one day what happened, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I had a dream. In that dream, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showed me exactly where the needles were kept, where the ink was kept, where the thread was kept. And also this amil used to have a writing pad. That writing pad, he said, oh, he used to go to him, he used to put it in front of a flame, and he used to bring everything up. You know, what kind of kafiyat? So your diagnosis used to be on that thing. I woke up in the morning, and I knew this was diagnosis. I went into the room where he was staying. He wasn't there at that time. I opened the drawer, and I saw everything there, A to Z, in terms of this is what's going on. I saw the ink where I saw it. I saw the needles and everything like that. I took the writing pad, went downstairs, switched on the gas, and I put it in front. And I said to my mom, there you go, I'm an amil now. And you know, so it's not, look, there are people who do have genuine things, but like you're saying, there are very limited people who are actually there genuinely.
Jazakallah, absolutely, mashallah. Mufti Ibrahim Sahib, have you got a question?
Yes, first of all, I would just like to express my views. I didn't came right at the beginning. I came after I've completed my daras from the masjid. It was roughly about 8:15
Ji.
or above that time. And I was hearing Dr. Saab's statements. His practice, his observation was fantastic. And I totally do agree with the observation, what he has done through his patients. Nonetheless, I was confused because there were overgeneralized statements. So I'm not saying criticizing, but I'm just saying because there were all overgeneralized statements. For example, all healers, all interpreters. I think so. After the discussion, the confusion has been removed by saying some healers,
Very good
some
point.
interpreters. And I think so that moves the dispute that can exist from this program.
Including
And so my question is, Dr. Saab, on I mean, through my programs, I always say these amils, there's not a fixed rule for them. There's no practice. There's no criteria at the moment. There's not an institution that provides the knowledge. I can give examples of, hundreds of ulama. They've come through the tradition madaris. Nobody has taught them that amal, become an amil. Mufti Sahib is in front of us. Yeah, there's no such module that exists within our madaris that teaches us to become an amil. It's something external issue down here. My question is, one of your statements regarding dream interpretation, that you said 99% of people's dreams are related to the nafsaniyat. I wonder how you came onto this conclusion, considering that 99%, is it only your audience, only those people, or as the whole ummah? Or it's one interpretation that you want to overgeneralize over the whole ummah?
Jazakallah. Dr. Zab, what's your viewpoint on that?
Is that for me or Mufti?
It's
For me,
yourself. Jazakallah.
yeah, well, that's an incorrect statement, what I made. It's not accurate. It should be 99% of the dreams that, of the dreams that young women tell men. That's what I've seen. Yeah, so there's no way I don't have the data to say what someone is dreaming. I can tell you myself, I have a lot of nafsani dreams, there's no question.
That's
I see some shaving cream, I go to sleep, I dream about the shaving cream, it's well known.
Jazakallah.
But what I'm saying is that thank you, Jazakumullah khair for what you said. The statements where I put all, I took them from a book. And that author wrote all. In fact, I didn't even write those statements myself. I had someone else, I said, just copy these statements from the book, I'll reference at the end. So I maybe didn't even read carefully, but it was from another book written in 1950, 1960, by a man named Muhammad Amin Sheikho. He's from Syria. He wrote a nice book on magic. It's a very, very good book. You can get it online. And he was very extreme, and so he used the word all. So Allah yajzik khairan kathiran kathiran kathiran. Allah reward you for correcting me on that. It's not all. That's correct. It's probably he was very dramatic, and maybe they're translating from the Arabic, and so they put, kul, maybe they meant all. Maybe kul didn't mean all, it meant majority, filmiya, something within 100. But yeah, it's majority of I'd say 99% of when girls go and tell older men, I had this dream, it's usually nafsani is what they're talking about.
Fabulous, mashallah. Anything else? Anybody else got any more questions? Mashallah, I've got one quick question to Mufti Siraj, Allah bless him and Allah give him a long life. He's doing very good work, and as we mentioned, he doesn't take any payment, and he spends his time, he spends a lot of time, his health is also being sacrificed. Allah accept it from him, and Allah give him a long life. He's one of our akabir ulama here, as I mentioned to you in the beginning as well. I wanted to ask Mufti Sahib himself that from the cases he sees, like you've had a percentage of people who have been traumatized, and you said 98% of people are actually being traumatized, and this internalization is coming out, and you reference it with that. So Mufti Sahib, yourself, the people you see, how much percentage do you think are genuinely afflicted with the situation? Any way you can tell?
In my experience of 30 years, that 50-50%, that's nafsiyati mars. One day actually a person came from Bedford, and he went by doctor diagnosed by cancer. So he could let me go see some amil. So he come to me, and alhamdulillah, I sat down there. I said, okay, bhai, what's wrong with you? He said, doctor diagnosed me, and I don't know how it came. I don't even know. I said, okay, doctor said to you, show me reports. He said, report. He said, okay. All right, okay. So then I started reading Surah Baqarah, the main ayats of called Manzil. So I was reciting on him. then suddenly, because this is many cases, alhamdulillah, the NHS also bring to me most of the white women, men, they bring the case from the NHS hospital. They write to me, I want appointments, and the certain time I give them appointment, they come, they write everything, what I'm doing, how I'm doing, everything, alhamdulillah. I got all the records and everything, alhamdulillah, from many communities, the big community of many places, alhamdulillah. They call me, many ulamas also, alhamdulillah.
Mufti Sahib has NHS referrals from psychiatric services.
So, alhamdulillah, what happened, I told, okay, I was reading, and it became unconscious. I said, what's wrong with him? What's wrong with him? Then I said, what's your name? Then he says, I won't tell you. There's no my name and this and whatever. I said, tell me truth, who are you? He says, I'm so and so person did to him, and I'm sitting here. I showed the doctor in the scan, is a cancer, is no cancer there. There is no cancer at all. I showed the doctor in the scan, there is cancer, showed a black dot or something in the stomach. I said, okay. So then what did you come here? He said, no, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to finish him. I said, before you kill him, I'm going to read Quranic as you will die also. He said, I know that you're going to do that, but I'm going that 100%, tell him to check up by doctor. Alhamdulillah, this person, this is even by doctor. Doctor, within 1 week says there's nothing wrong, everything fine, there is no cancer. To certain, they happen like this also, they can turn to sickness also. Many cases. Got no time to explain, go more into it. If I write my own experience, I can write maybe 10 volumes.
Please do, inshallah, Mufti Sahib. We'll all be waiting for inshallah. Any more questions from our esteemed guest, Mona Tahseen Sahib? You have a question?
Alhamdulillah, we learned a lot today. I also came late, so I couldn't listen to everything, but I was listening on the phone as well while driving, mashallah. It's not a question, but something which we should really, focus upon as well.
We need to keep it brief, okay? We've got to cut off very short, so Jazakallah, please to the point.
We need to educate the people, the customer, you can say, or the people who seek ulama. I'm just giving my own example. I'm not an amil, but still people ring me nearly every second day, or they write to me, can you please do ruqya upon us, can you do this and that. I guide them according to Quran and Sunnah, that these are the readings, you should read these ayats, and you should be in wudu, etc.
We've got 4 minutes for azan, so please make your point briefly.
So, Jazakumullah khaira wa ahsan jaza.
Please, आपके point तो ये है कि we should educate our Muslim brothers and sisters.
My point is that we should educate people, and how should we do that?
Mufti Sahib?
The main things is most of the time you can see that most of the people, they're not learned person. You tell them to read third kalima, they don't know third kalima. Fourth kalima, how they're going to recite Quran, because they don't make effort in that area. So the main things, most of it, even one person came, I said, read third kalima is better for 100 times. He said, I don't know third kalima. And his age is 65. So the main thing is we have to tell them that after every farz namaz you recite Surah Falak, Surah Nas, Ayatul Kursi, focus, this, many things. At least you could learn by somebody and you can blow on yourself, and inshallah. We have to tell in the bayans, generally, even on air or everywhere, inshallah. So basically, very helpful, as we saying every Monday, what to do.
So, mashallah, from there we understand that people can help themselves. Dr. Zabit, they have issues of trauma, they need to see the expert in the field, psychologists, etc. So I think consensus is that people have issues with the jinn. Rasulullah had issues, was affected by magic, and if it can happen to Rasulullah, it can happen to everybody else. So see an expert in the field, and Dr. Sahib has said that one of the signs of this is that people who don't take money, which Mufti Sahib doesn't do, and also be aware that in many times, Dr. Sahib, you'd agree, that these are ploys of shaitan to make a person do the cardinal sin, which is, takabbur, which a person feels that I am better, hence I'm afflicted with this illness. So don't always see it, shaitan has got other things to do, and his biggest objective is to make you do shirk with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So mashallah, we like to thank our esteemed guest, Dr. Sahib. We love to see you again, inshallah. Allah ta'ala bless you, Allah give you long life and this illuminating knowledge. Allah ta'ala keep you illuminating everybody with it. Mufti Sahib, ab zara dua farmali, inshallah.
Mashallah, we have learned, Dr. Sahib, so much things from you, mashallah.
Jazakumullah.
We have, inshallah, you too.
Barakallah.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين واجعلنا للمتقين إماما اللهم إنا نسألك الهدى والتقى والعفاف والغنى اللهم احفظنا من كل بلاء الدنيا وعذاب القبر وعذاب الآخرة اللهم إنا نسألك العفو والعافية والمعافاة الدائمة في الدين والدنيا والآخرة سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله